Advocacy. I want to introduce Amy Nelson and Keith Fossen. They are founding members of Save the Bluffs. They've been involved in silica mining discussions since 2011 when 155 acres behind their home was purchased to use as a sand pit. He joined the Hay Creek Town Board. She joined the Planning Commission. They both participated in the state Citizens Advisory Panel to develop rules regarding silica sand mining. They helped write their own township's ordinance regarding mining. It got it done even before the county finished theirs. They've spoken at several showings of the price of sand and helped many citizens understand what can be done to protect their communities. Welcome, Amy and Keith.
We've seen a lot of the people in this room before. So we've been doing this for a while now. And I'm going to start off with just the introduction, and then let Keith take over because he's the speaker of the two of us. We've been married 25 years, so I can say that. As Katie said, this whole thing started in February of 2011 when we had one neighbor, Kathy Bibas, who's here somewhere, ended up seeing a little ad in the paper, in the Red Wing paper, that was the notice of sale. And that notice of sale simply said the land that was behind our house was sold to Windsor Permium LLC for $2.5 million. Well, it was 155 acres, it was farmland, and this didn't make any sense whatsoever. She started investigating it, she found out what was going on, she found that it was likely for silica, that they were going to mine this, and this whole thing started. The first meeting we had was in a library in Red Wing, Minnesota. How many people were at that library meeting? Anybody in here? Just a few people, handful of people. That started this whole thing. So we started speaking out and talking about this and educating people, and our little neighborhood of 7 homes ended up growing into, we have about 400 people who are members of Save the Bluffs right now. So it's been a huge force, and that grew to attract other people to this, and we started communicating with what was going on in Wisconsin, learning more, started latching ourselves onto land stewardship because they were doing the same thing we were, and we became politicians and we didn't even know it. And we've learned a lot in this process. Keith has probably been single-handedly one of the people who has communicated the best and the most articulately with our commissioners and our politicians on what's important, because he's the business guy out of the two of us. I'm the researcher, I'm the teacher. I tend to go in way too much detail. and he tends to talk in their lingo, and has been very good at communicating of what needs to be done legally. And so I'm going to kind of turn it over to him as what he did and how he ended up making things happen politically.
Thank you. Oh, okay. My name's Keith. When I first got involved in this, I approached it with an arrogant confidence. I've had a lot of success being a business turnaround guy all over the world, Asia, Italy, half a dozen states, United States. I moved here like 13 times in the first 15 years. And it was a rude awakening. I was naive, I was ignorant, I had no idea what to do. And so after being humbled like that, I stepped back and I thought, well, what can I do? And God has given me a couple of gifts that has allowed me to do some things in business, and that is, I love to solve problems. And I've developed a little bit of an ability to help people realize their potential, to help open doors so that people a heck of a lot smarter than me can get involved and get some things done. So what we started with in our little township, we first went to county board meetings, and that's where I was really humbled, because nobody gave a dang what I had to say at first. And you guys have experienced it. And then, so we attacked at the township level, went to the town board and talked to them and realized nobody was going to help us. And so then we decided to take a little bit of a political approach, got involved with the planning commission. I ran for township supervisor, really started digging into it. and discovered something. As we thought about how are we going to make this work, the first thing we did was surveyed our township to Pay Creek with a paper hard-mailed survey of what they thought about some of the key issues that we were going to bring back to the Planning Commission for the Land Use and Comprehensive Plan, kind of the nuts and bolts stuff. And we got that feedback, and we found overwhelmingly the majority of the people in our township wanted nothing to do with frac sand mining. So we thought, well, that's good stuff. But still, I really don't know what I'm doing, so I decided to get legal advice. And I spoke to Bill Mavity early on. Oh, he didn't give any legal advice. He just said, good luck, young man. And then you got sucked in too, didn't you? It was just weeks later, he was sucked in big. And so I did hire an attorney for legal advice. And I discovered that because the majority of the people in our township wanted nothing to do with sand mining, that was irrelevant. That was irrelevant. And what an eye-opener that was for me. And once I got past the anger of that, kind of went back to, okay, that's cool. Now, the problem solvers came out me again and I started to say, okay, so what are we going to do about that? So then I got elected, and we had like 120 people vote in our township election, and we'd never had over 37 vote before. So that was really exciting, and I got 80 votes, so I'm like a political icon there. And then we had a listening session, and actually this was Amy's idea and a couple other people that kind of started to cluster around and create this Save the Bluffs. Tom and Kathy Bibas, some neighbors of ours, they really had what I thought was a good intellectual insight to what we could do in the community because of their experience. And so we had a listening session. So we had a town meeting, and we had like 80 people show up to a town meeting that was simply a listening session, we called it. And that's a pretty big deal for a little township of Hay Creek. And so we got flip charts up on the boards and used the old MBO process I brought by business, and we brainstormed, we got all the ideas on the board, and then we started voting on what the people of the township thought was the most important. And the reason I wanted to take that approach was I learned years ago that I got to get buy-in by people, because that's the only thing that's going to make anything work in an organization is people, and they want to see it happen. And so suddenly we got all these people in the township that want to see it happen. The political pressure was enormous because of that in our little township. And within a very short period of time, we passed a very strong ordinance that makes it almost impossible to put a silica sand mine in our township. We chose by political advice not to use the word ban. We chose just to take this approach of, we put land use restrictions in that make it just not economically feasible to do sand mining in our township. But we passed that in less than 6 months. And if I have one thing I'd like to say to everybody here today, a lot of smart people are going to talk to you today about how to manage sand mines and when they make their applications and how to control it and get the best you can. I won't be one of those people. I just don't want it. So I'm going to do everything in my heart to just stop it. And if it does happen, there's some really smart people that are going to help regulate it, because it will probably happen. And you know, I got to be honest and not be naive again. But I'm going to just keep doing that. We were able to then pass this ordinance. I learned something. When I started to have this debate with my other township supervisors, I couldn't get nothing done. We couldn't agree on one line in that ordinance. So I had an attorney simply draft an ordinance. Draft it and kind of put this framework together, and then we sat down and said, okay, how about this? And then we went through it line by line, and it took a while, and it was a lot of passion, a lot of coercion on my part, and we got to the point where we had a reasonably good ordinance, and then we had the attorney sit in with us at a joint planning and township board session where we had a public discussion, and the potential legal issues came up, and scared the heck out of the poor attorney sitting in there because, it's like, wow, I'm giving advice on the fly here. And we came up with a pretty good ordinance. So I truly believe that you could, in your townships, do something quickly. Because I think we need layers at the township, at the city, at the county. We were able to get some things passed at the county level, made some compromises because they wouldn't listen to us. One of those compromises was very self-serving. We got them to agree it couldn't be within a mile of a residentially zoned area, which was right behind my house. But it, you know, within a mile of a river, within a mile of a city. So we got some things that people felt were politically expedient to agree to. And so we got some good things passed at the county level, including you can't use flocculants. And that's a significant impact on the economic viability for processing in our county. So that's kind of my spiel is I really think if you want to do something quickly, you can and you should. We also lobbied at the state level with Matt Schmidt and got involved in that rulemaking process. We're blessed to be on that Citizens Advisory Committee for the UPB. I think all those levels are important, but I think it starts right at the township or city. If you can get something there that makes it very uncomfortable, very difficult to do sand mining in your community, you're a piece of that puzzle that can build all the way to the state and hopefully the national level that will stop this idiocy. So I urge you to get out and do something now, because if we wouldn't have done it when we did it, we'd already have a sand mine in our backyard. We got a moratorium at the county level and argued with those folks for a long time, but that gave us the window to do something at some local township levels. There's another adjoining township that took a little different approach, but who I really learned a lot from. We did it at the same time and shared information. And I'd like to ask Jody Matherath if she would talk a little bit what was done in Florence Township, kind of in partner with us. We shared information, and then they took it a little different approach. Jody?